Oh, welcome to another episode of Communicating Towards the Answer. Hey, Cam. Hey, Erika. Good to see you. Everyone here.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, so in this second episode, we were given a theme that I think personally is also very important because it gives aspects that are given in a different meaning to live it or to understand it, has its value in its own, because of course first we are about transforming those aspects coming from the ego mind. And so the title of The Art of Playing Salvation's Game has the perspective in it that we want to open up for a recognition. There's always more to learn here in time space. I can anything um, in which I find myself or is perceived through the senses, I can make it to an art, and I can make it to an art of the last game played. And that game would be, of course, the idea of salvation. So that is also that Jesus teaches, but he also teaches it in both ways. At some point, he does teach very clearly that playing around with children's toys, we have to just let go. And on the other hand, he asks us to be like children playing the game of salvation. So we will look today at how um, this this art, or this where we find ourselves in playing whatever we consider as salvation, how it changes us and freeing ourselves up from playing basically the oldest game that exists on the timeline, and that was the game, how to be successful staying in separation, right? How to keep on a reality of the play tools that determine you are there, I'm here, we are in different realities, we are in different perceptions, and therefore we have different experiences. And this is really how our awakening is orchestrated, that we find out it's not so. It is one mind, and at the end we are converting also the one thought of separation, or that was the game was denying the truth of ourselves. No? So we are willing to restore true communication. We open our mind to his answer. And of course, first we in that communication with Jesus' mind and his teaching, and the inclusion of this later day teaching of A Course in Miracles, we do see that we are becoming or have become uh, like happy children, the game that unites us, that brings us together, that lets us experience forgiveness and healing of our mind. So, give you the microphone, Erica and Cameron. Please let us know what is in your mind in respect to this theme, first of all.
So I'll go first. I um you just said trying to make it successful here in the separation. So what I've been present to, that's what's been going on for me. What I've been present to in the last week strongly is I'm trying to make it work here, to make it perfect, and having expectations that cannot be met here. And I am seeing constant disappointments, letdowns, even in most recently in my spiritual group that I have. I see where I've made idols and had an expectation that these people around me are going to make me feel perfect. And when they don't, I get mad. And my style is to run and to say, nope, screw you. You're not right. You're not doing it right. You're messed up. I'm going to find something better, something higher. It's just like not working. It's like I'm finding everywhere I look, there's this letdown, this friction. And when I stop and I pause and I'm not talking about it, but I'm like actually in the experience of who I am, there's clarity, and it all seems to go away. And I feel the noise falls off. And I don't even know what to say, but yeah, the noise goes away. Maybe I don't necessarily have the bliss how I usually do there in the last week, but it's quiet. And so I'm questioning everything I'm saying, how I'm doing it here, what I'm trying. I'm questioning it. I don't know where to go. I'm sort of a big mess, is what it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your first thoughts, Kevin?
It's not easy. That's what I'm experiencing a lot, is the struggle in retaining that peace and that understanding of how to focus on the salvation aspect of it, and then to also focus on going to work, for example, and all of the confusion there and every body that shows up. And with this practicing, it's the practicing that's been going on, there's an awareness that's opened up, but still it's not easy to find the peace in that. And so there's a lot of up and downs, which is new for me because I've created this steadiness throughout my existence here. And so it's created a lot of uncertainty, and that's some of the hardest things to be able to trust. And but then it's simple, because for a moment when there's the space given, it's like, oh, there it is, there's the answer, it's like it's there, right? And but to be able to differentiate those spaces and join them together is where there's a struggle. And to be able to find that peace where it's like always there no matter what. And then there's a lot of that too, that going more on that is it even possible? There's this doubt, right? Can it really be where you find that salvation space all of the time, and to allow that always present? So that's a little bit.
And do you have a sense of, if we want to use those two examples, and we investigate so that we can open it up towards the truth, do you have a sense of where the mistake in the thinking in your mind lies? I mean, those are two uh, apparently different scenarios, but they also have something in common. And mostly they have something in common on the level of the thought where it becomes then the problem. And so, do you have a sense of where the mistake in the mind lies, that it is being seen that way as it is experienced, and then experienced as something that um, needs a resolution or needs a problem solving?
Are you asking
Well,
Cam or
both. No, it's
asking
both.
me?
I think it's
Yeah.
both.
It could,
But
yeah, it's actually, I think it's both. It's just a different form than how it expresses it. No?
Yeah,
right.
for me, it seems to be where I'm thinking with the ego and I'm not thinking with God. But I don't know how to do it. And that's the miracle. That's where my willingness takes care of that. And I can show up and trust and demonstrate the willing and be willing in my mind. And it can look really uncomfortable for a moment, but I do have the evidence that it gets sorted, that it's like, it's, it comes to light. But I feel I wanted more and more faster, that I'm holding the space Cam's talking about, because I see that it's making apparent messes here when I'm not. Like just spewing out words. And I know this, I feel like I've known this for a while. But what prevents me in the moment from choosing to pause and catch that wave, Marin, catching the wave, you know, what is it? What's my attachment to just like checking out, numbing out in that self, which is not me?
Mhm.
Oh, it's
Thank you.
it's still very attractive, obviously, because I'm doing it.
All right.
Yeah.
What is your thought, Ken?
The thing that's the strongest for me, that something you said, Devavan, is when there's a pause, and Erica's mentioned this a lot, and that is something that I have really taken on in moments where I'm interacting with someone and there is a very clear moment, because I'm holding that pause so presently that it allows for that space to enter. And because then I'm not feeding that energy that's being put out there from someone else who's in an upset.
Mm-hmm.
So to pause has been a very powerful tool in understanding how to maintain that salvation space.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those are now already two aspects that you're giving, how it could be lived in the transformation, or how through utilizing those tools, a different experience can be reached. No? But it doesn't really say anything about how I recognize the mistake in my mind that I make. And for me, those situations, when they happen, I first go really acknowledging, in your example, Cam, it would be acknowledging that, oh my God, here I find myself again, and I really think that my coworker is not me and is somebody else. That's a mistake, right? And that's a mistake in the identity. But once I see that I'm holding myself as someone separate from myself, someone other than myself, then I have a chance for a real unification in one mind. And that's exactly that's actually in the lesson 191 of the course, I am the Holy Son of God Himself. And he talks in that lesson about the denial of true identity. Because my true identity would be my recognition, clearly who I am, and so the recognition of my brother, who she is. Yeah. And without that, I'm playing the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just opened it up right now while I was listening to you. He says here in that lesson 191, Yet what is it except a game you play in which identity can be denied? Né? And he repeats before that several times, deny your own identity. And you will not escape the madness which induced this weird, unnatural, and ghostly thought that mocks creation and that laughs at God and so on and so forth. You are as God created you. All else but this one thing is folly to believe in this one thought is everyone set free. So here comes the clarification, but you see, he directs me first to recognize where I make the mistake. I make the mistake to deny what the one identity of all of us is. Yeah. And there I have to start out in the correction also, in the sense of going through whatever means I use to that
Can you guys
experience
hear me?
in
Sorry.
which
Yes.
okay, we're gonna
Okay, sorry. I've been listening.
mute all.
I
Hold on a
have
moment,
some
because
weird.
we don't do microphone thing. Please write your things into the into the chat, yeah. And Cameron, you have to open up your microphone again. So, again, I repeat where I just left it. So I have to recognize where I make the mistake in order that I can come to some progress into a greater experience that unifies me again. Yeah. And uh, with the example that you gave, Erica, where it is in that sense maybe more the personal experience of who am I in that relationship with my brother of walking together. It's of course it's also the same of literally looking at the brother, at the other, as somebody different and as somebody who could, let's say, contribute to your recognition something that either you already know or you don't know yet, but it's also something that is held as a game played with someone outside oneself. Né? And the truth is, I'm always only with my thoughts in my own mind. I'm only confronted with my own thoughts in my own mind. And so the question is only arising then, how am I going to use those thoughts that confront me in my own mind? How am I going to use them am I going to use them? And those are always the choices. Am I going to use them in order to separate myself or keep in separation or separate myself further? That is the definition of the resentment, of the grievance. Or am I going to use what confronts me in my mind in order to see there is really one mind only going on, one mind speaking, one mind the answer, yeah, one mind looking at problems, one mind also recognizing and experiencing the solution. And what might be with, in one case, more a personal image or reflection, might be in the other case more a scenario or a picture, like you mentioned, Cam, as a work situation. Yeah. But all that has at its base a thought that is already in separation and wants to be inquired, wants to be exposed, and wants to be brought to the Holy Spirit. Because it is only by the grace of the Holy Spirit that we will recognize that this, what we perceive out there, is actually is nothing. is not important. It's just a means for my learning, but it doesn't define my identity. Once I acknowledge what my true identity is, I am already on safe ground because now I can actually say, okay, here's still a game going on, and I'm still playing with figures or with pictures in my dream, but now I can choose that I want to play something that doesn't have an outcome anymore in separation, pain, and suffering. I'm choosing then an outcome of unification of thoughts, opening up to the light of our mind, to the connection and love of God that we feel inside ourselves. Go ahead, Erica.
Okay, so I'm with you, following you. Thank you. And sometimes how it shows up for me is I can bring it back and see, oh, this is me. This is in my mind, but I can't sometimes find the actual true experience of that. And then what I want to do is solve it in space time and get into a dialogue with the brother or fixing it. And what I've been trying to sort lately is, can I go and get in that dialogue from that space where I'm still in the upset? I'm trying to hold that awareness that this is me, this is not them out there. Does it even make sense to try to start to engage and solve it? Or am I just supposed to do the work internally until I get back into that experience that you're talking about? I don't know how to navigate that. Like sometimes it seems it's useful to go in and have a clarification with a brother when that happens. And sometimes it's like, and Karen, thank you so much for being here, because I've been trying to do this in my mind with you. But you know, it's like, where do I solve it? I don't know. Anyways, now
Yeah,
I'm
it's very simple because I just need to acknowledge I'm already in a dialogue. Né? And so we are also in that room with each other in a dialogue. And that's why we set a certain format that we three have the microphones open and all the other brothers have the chance and can put their comments and their questions into the chat box. So
right.
that it doesn't just exceed in a different form, which is
Yes.
a group commentary and group exchange. But it doesn't matter. Any form works at all. It's actually a good example because once I acknowledge I'm already in a dialogue and I'm always in a dialogue, right? That is where I start out. I cannot start out in a human consciousness and being conscious about what's going on without actually being in a dialogue. Because if the dialogue has found its end, I will not perceive anything. I will simply be in the peace of God. Right? That's the resolved dialogue. So anything I still perceive is just evidence of I'm in the dialogue. So again, the question arises, what am I gonna do with the dialogue and how I'm gonna proceed in the dialogue? And there again, the different ways branch, né? And of course the results are different then. But if I acknowledge that I'm in a dialogue, then I can also pinpoint and find out with whom or with what I'm in dialogue with. And that's really where it makes it this way or that way. And when I mean this way or that way, I mean it makes it then a communication with the Holy Spirit or a communication with the ego.
Yeah.
If I determine, and that power of mind we have, if I determine that my dialogue should be with my true self, which is the Holy Spirit, I will get a true answer, the true answer. If I determine that the dialogue has its basis of meanings given by the ego, I will be caught up in that directive of believing this thing is going on, that thing is going on, this means this means that, and so on and so forth. Endless, of course. And that dialogue will never, in that sense, really reveal its splendor of the oneness of mind, because the ego will do anything to determine, hey, look, there are two different opinions, there are two different things going on, there are two different thoughts, and one of them must be right, right? The ego will always move on and say, look, you need to decide what's going to be right. And that's the decision within the ego mind between, we call it with the Course in Miracles, between nothing and nothing, right? If I choose between nothing and nothing, between one meaningless thought and another meaningless thought, I am myself meaningless, and I chose meaninglessness as my identity. So you see, it's a lost case. There's no way that can be come to a solution. Therefore, the entire directive of the Christ consciousness is, in order to come to a solution, I need to access a power that is not within, that is within also, but that has not its base and its source within limitation, within the limited human mind. And if we like it or not, it is the white dove that is the Holy Spirit. I mean, it's just a joke, but because that's how we grow up in the Catholic community. I called it the pigeon and not the dove, the Holy Spirit who is hovering above us. But the Holy Spirit within ourselves is the voice that speaks for God. And the Holy Spirit has its source in God and not in a human limited mind. Ne? He just shows up there as the help. And that's the difference. Ne? So the moment I decide, okay, here I'm in a dialogue, and I give you the meanings that I have about that dialogue, about what I think the meaning of what I think about a situation, or what anybody thinks about a situation. And then I bring it really to always to the asking for help, show me what I can learn with that. Show me what the true meaning of what's going on is. Show me what, let's say, what I'm guided towards. Show me what my experience, which experience is waiting for me. That makes the difference. That asking for being shown, because the Holy Spirit will ultimately always and only show us the truth, and show us that, first of all, here is nothing going on, but if you come with me above into the light, everything is going on. And that everything is really sharing creative thought, the light of creation. And what I love in that also is we get a sense there's no exchange then anymore. We get the sense we might still continue in a dialogue in words, but we get a sense of a stillness that is not an exchange of dialogue, opinions, of meanings, different meanings, but it becomes then really a being touched inside, and knowing, wow, we have arrived on the same page, let's say. No? And we can feel that now. No?
Yeah.
Cam, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was something that I was wanting to share earlier, but about how when you're in this dialogue with another and you feel upset about something, there's an upset, and to come back and recognize maybe in that sorry, how can I portray this? It's sort of like how is that me, the way that that person's behaving or the way they're acting or how they continue to act always, to be able to recognize that as part of you,
Mhm.
like the one, like, because some egos are, you can't really, it's hard to connect with it. So in a sense, like looking and turning it back on yourself and seeing like this is me, when that ego pattern or that person is something that you don't want to participate with or even understand as yourself, right? But to be able to relate that and convert that into yourself and recognize how that other brother is you when they're behaving that way, and you're like, I don't feel like I would ever choose to behave that way. I don't know if that's making any sense, but this is just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes completely sense.
Yeah.
Look, the thing is also not complicated on that level, and it's way more difficult to acknowledge that what you're talking about, to acknowledge that this is still me, than to find a way how to kind of be in peace with that uh, colleague or that picture. No? Uh, Somehow we figured always out how we can get along with. But the difficult part is actually to recognize that this is me. And when as long as there is a certain resistance there in the mind to recognize that what is natural, especially when we start out our transformation, we just need to acknowledge and to understand that it is the me on any point of the timeline, right? It is you at any time of the, because you have never not existed. And at any given moment, over thousands of years, the consciousness was the same as it is now, as it will forever be, because we are talking about creative power of mind, right? So I might see myself how I was 2000 years ago, or maybe in in the next moment. Né? And if that becomes a kind of a practice also, you will see that the resistance falls away, you know. Then I might just acknowledge, okay, this is me, how I was, where I once was. Now what is the situation for? What is it here? What does it offer me? It offers me to choose anew and to strengthen that new choice. I can say, this was me, but I choose again. I have no use of this anymore. Or I think with today's lesson, the thankful, the expression of thanks to God and His gifts, né? Which is also the salvation's game that we want to play now. You know, it becomes a confirmation of that gratitude, that thanks that we give literally to God, that we had the strength to choose anew and to change. So I would simply then use the situation and in, okay, I acknowledge this is still me, I see, but I confirm that what I see and what it tries to manipulate or do with the world is no longer what I choose for myself. I choose instead the peace of God. That's how I would simply go in my mind and repeat it as long as it shows up. And you will see it becomes less and less and less, because it's only the resistance in which the image can persist. What I resist persists. The moment I start using it, and I using it for playing salvation's game, that's where the connection again, where I acknowledge that there is only myself and I see only myself, but I don't identify with it anymore. You know, there is, you have gone beyond and further, and you do not really identify with what you see in your colleague as an ego expression anymore. For goodness sake, thank you. No? And that's why we are doing that now here. No? and it's different. No? So you can simply express it in the way of uh, confirming and affirming what your choice now is. And then you just trust that that choice, that work inside of which you spoke, Erica, also, no? That is then actually being with myself, within my own self and mind and heart. And then completely trust in the miracle that it will communicate. It will show up as a change of how I see the world. It
Yeah.
will. It's inevitable because I am the maker of this world. If I affirm the separation will continue. If I affirm the oneness, and we are all smack here, and it is in our own mind, which is the one mind of Christ, then it cannot sustain itself and maintain its illusionary nature and continue weaving those reflections. This is good news, actually. No?
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, that would really help.
Yes.
Yeah, that sorted a lot. Yeah.
And we need to point out one more thing, because there's a risk in it which the human consciousness normally doesn't dare, because it is connected with the idea of loss. The risk is that you realize and give testimony of that that represented the ego demonstration is actually not existing, not real. It's nothing, you know. So the moment I acknowledge that it is nothing, I a part of the mind might still fear that it might disappear and I'm losing that association. Yeah. But it's the nature of the thing. All the illusionary form associations will disappear. Indeed, they already have disappeared. So I can also confirm for myself then, okay, I don't need to be afraid of the loss of that picture, of that form association. I'm blessing it into its dissolution, literally. Yeah. But it will disappear. And in your case, it might disappear. You might lose that job. Or maybe the colleagues will say, we don't want to work with you anymore. We rather find somebody else. You have to risk that. You know, you have to say, whatever, I don't care, whatever, because because I already realize in my mind it's not the meaning that comes from God. I already have confirmed it in its meaninglessness. So I already said yes, that it will disappear at some point, and it will disappear. This way or that way. We can again choose if we want to have it disappear in a celestial celebration by loving each other and blessing each other, or with, okay, get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. We choose that. No? But it's what drama do I still need? No. I want to have it in the blessing and in the love expression and in seeing, even if we walk different paths and different ways, we are still staying together and we are still one, and we can never separate. That's really what the transformed mind then sees clearly, that any situation that is still attacking it's available. I can live it, I can experience it that way. It's my choice. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, very
Yeah.
applicable, and it's helpful.
So if anybody in the auditorium has any comment or any question, please write it in the chat. And we including it in, but what can I'm gonna share something from the course also that where it comes very soon in the lesson 153 in my defenselessness, my safety lies, because that's that sentence that most of us know or have heard of before, where Jesus teaches salvation can be thought of as a game that happy children play. So that also we want to be very clear also what that means, because also as we mentioned it at the very beginning with your example, Cam, also we don't really know what salvation means, we have many ideas about it, but knowing what salvation means is then experiencing and being in the salvation. And in being in salvation with my own thought forms, of course, everything is at peace. Everything is in God at home. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to teach. There's nothing to ask for. We are then in those moments, literally in the experience. And here in the 12th paragraph, he says, it was designed by one who loves his children and who would replace their fearful toys with joyous games, which teach them that the game of fear is gone. And that's the importance what we were um, clarifying now in our talking, that the game of fear can be recognized as I have no use of this anymore. It's let it be gone. His game instructs in happiness because there is no loser. Also something that always wants to be clarified. As long as I leave a loser as myself or as the brother within the game, it will continue. It will continue, and the loser will show up as being myself at the end. Because if I make my brother being the loser, I'm making myself that. Everyone who plays must win, and in his winning is the gain to everyone ensured. And that means everyone has the right to be happy, and everyone will arrive at the happiness. Everyone must arrive at, okay, there is actually one thing going on, and that one thing going on we let direct and infuse by the power of the Holy Spirit. We let him be the coach of the game. Yeah. The game of fear is gladly laid aside when children come to see the benefit salvation brings. You who have played that you are lost to hope, abandoned by your father, left alone in terror in a fearful world, made mad by sin and guilt. And here's his instruction, and I'll leave it with that. Be happy now, that game is over. Be happy now, this game is over. Ja, Maren, jawohl, genau. That's it. Be happy now, that game is over. Which even the game we were sharing, that's already over. No? We have arrived actually in an agreement and acknowledgement. Okay, I'm willing to be happy now. I don't need to think for the next moment. I don't need to hold a picture and the thought of the past. I'm just relax and be at peace in the now. That's where happiness is. And you see with that serenity within our own mind, that's the basis we were asking for and we need. And with this basis, we can go out and now do anything. Do some garden work, go and do some restaurant work, play the handpan, make some spoons out of wood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Devavan, I don't know what time it is, but in that space that I love, I want that. It does feel like there's an action, like there's work to me, because there's a voice at the side, like coming in, and it feels a bit like there's a no. Like
Just extend it. You see, that would exactly at that point would be the resistance.
yeah,
And
right,
and
right.
a part of the mind would say, but not more than that, stop there. Né? And
Yeah.
we have to learn to just let it, just extend it by thought power. Né?
Okay.
It comes into you. It is the grace that you feel, and you
Yeah.
just extend it. You don't need to know what it is. It's just an extension of thought that doesn't have a certain meaning. It's the meaning of God, actually. It's the light thought. Just let it extend through you. Doesn't go anywhere. It goes into infinity, to everywhere. And then you see that you can do that in any situation. That's so cool that I can extend the grace of God in any situation at any given moment. And of course, the training is not to fall into the trap of believing I understand some meaning of that. That was also involved again with perception. That would be maybe a theme we could open up for next time, to look more at perception, and because that's where the trap then is. Né?
Right. Yeah.
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 That's a powerful thing, that one. It's so hard to not get sucked into that. It's hard.
Yeah, and now you can say it's so
Right
easy to
now.
get out of it
Oh,
again.
right. But when it's just getting thrown at you from
Mhm.
all angles,
Yeah.
it's hard to step out for a second when you're flooded with it, right? And so
Yeah.
that would be nice to go deeper into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will figure out the title for that the next days. Are we fine? Everybody in the room also leaving it with for today with that? Yeah, that's wonderful. Really, I have still also a song to share in Spanish, and you will all love it. It's one of my. So Natalie already knows what is coming. I already played it at some reunions. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you.
Thank you.
I think we still can go on another Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time, which is 5 p.m. in Germany. Okay.
Yeah.